Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a warm summer afternoon in a small town where everyone knew each other. Marcus, a 62-year-old black veteran, was walking leisurely down the sidewalk after his daily walk with his dog, a loyal Labrador named Buddy. After serving his country for more than 20 years, Marcus had only one habit: to enjoy his retirement peacefully, far from the chaos of the outside world. Suddenly, a police car sped up. Lights flashed and sirens wailed. Two officers, known for their aggressive temperaments, got out of the vehicle. Before he could even react, one of them pointed at Marcus. "Dog, attack!" The police dog, a massive German shepherd trained to blindly obey commands, lunged toward Marcus. The veteran's heart raced, but instead of feeling the dog's fangs close around him, he felt something unexpected. Buddy, the loyal Labrador, immediately intervened, growling and protecting his master. But what surprised everyone was that the police dog, the famous German shepherd, made a strange movement. He stopped dead in his tracks, took a few steps back, and looked Marcus straight in the eye. He didn't pounce, didn't bite. A heavy silence fell over the street. The stunned police officers didn't understand what was happening. The dog, trained to obey every command, seemed to be thinking. Then, with an almost human gesture, he lay down in front of Marcus as if to protect him. The stunned veteran gently stroked the dog's head. Passers-by began filming, their phones out, and within seconds, the video began circulating on social media. Marcus, the forgotten hero of so many battles, had just received an unexpected form of justice, from the very people who were supposed to threaten him. Marcus walked slowly along the sidewalk, Buddy happily trotting beside him. The summer heat made the asphalt glisten, and the scent of flowers from the neighboring gardens filled the air. For Marcus, every walk was a moment of peace, far from the sounds of sirens and the tensions of the city. Buddy, a Labrador with boundless energy, sniffed here and there, played with a stick that had fallen from a tree, and faithfully returned to Marcus whenever he called. Their bond was evident. After all these years, Marcus had never needed words to communicate with his companion. Suddenly, the roar of an engine shattered the silence. A police car sped up, skidding slightly as it stopped in front of them. Two officers got out, caps screwed on, hard gazes, and quick movements. One of them, Sergeant Thompson, a man with a harsh and racist reputation, pointed at Marcus. "You there! Freeze!" he shouted. Marcus raised his hands, surprised and confused. "Hello. I don't understand." Before he could finish his sentence, another officer ordered. "Dog, attack!" The police department's muscular, fearsome German shepherd pounced with military precision. Marcus felt his heart race. His war memories came flooding back: gunfire, explosions, comrades falling around him. But he had never imagined finding himself like this, vulnerable, facing a dog trained to obey without question. As the dog approached, Buddy instinctively leaped forward, growling and placing himself between Marcus and the danger. The veteran, still in shock, whispered, "Buddy, protect me." The German shepherd suddenly stopped, as if hearing an inner voice. He stared at Marcus for a few seconds, then stepped back and sat motionless. The police officers were frozen, stunned. Marcus, breathing heavily, placed a hand on the police dog's head, surprised by this unexpected gesture. Around them, passers-by had stopped, some filming the scene with their phones. The murmur quickly turned into excited whispers: "He's not attacking him, is he protecting him?" Marcus looked at the police officers, then at the dog. A strange feeling of awe and relief washed over him. Deep in his heart, he knew this moment would change something, not just for him, but for the entire city. Within minutes of the incident, the street was packed. Passers-by took out their phones and streamed the scene live on social media. Within an hour, the video of Marcus and the police dog had been shared hundreds of times. Comments poured in, some denouncing the attack order, others praising the veteran's courage and the dog's uncanny obedience. In a small house in the town, Linda, a teacher, showed the video to her students. "Look at this," she said, her voice trembling. "That veteran, he could have been attacked, but look at the dog, he refused to obey. It's incredible." Meanwhile, Marcus was walking home with Buddy. He still didn't understand the magnitude of what had just happened. His life had always been simple, an honorable job, walks with Buddy, and memories of his service. But that day, he felt something was about to change. At the police station, the scene was completely different. The officers involved were furious. Sergeant Thompson pounded angrily on his desk. "That dog, he disobeyed. How is that possible?" Officer Miller, his colleague, was also seething, "And now everyone's going to laugh at us." The video is already online. The video quickly spread beyond the city limits. Local media began covering the story. A television anchor announced. A veteran was threatened by a police dog, but the dog refused to attack. A moving display of courage and loyalty, which is going viral on social media. In the days that followed, Marcus received calls from journalists, former comrades, and even veterans organizations. Anonymous people sent him messages of support. Some invited him to testify about what had really happened, while others offered legal assistance against the police. But Marcus, humble as ever, wanted just one thing: peace. Yet he quickly realized that his actions, and those of the dog, had triggered a media storm he could not ignore. That day, Marcus realized that loyalty and courage weren't just values he'd learned in the military. Sometimes they came from the least expected. And this police dog had just proven it to him. The day after the incident, the entire town was talking about Marcus. Residents, inspired by the veteran's courage and the unexpected behavior of the police dog, began gathering outside the police station. Banners appeared on social media: "Justice for Marcus" and "Courage has 4 legs." Marcus, for his part, tried to remain discreet. But everywhere he went, he encountered grateful and admiring faces. In the local cafe, the waitress greeted him with a moved smile. "Mr. Marcus, I just wanted to say thank you. What you went through, no one should ever have to go through." Tensions were running high at the police station. The police chief urgently summoned Sergeant Thompson and Officer Miller. "This thing is getting out of hand," he said coldly. "The video is circulating all over the country. We can't let this go." But the public reaction only grew. Veterans and civil rights groups organized peaceful rallies. Reporters came to interview Marcus, and despite his modesty, he calmly explained, "I never asked for anything special. I just wanted to walk quietly with my dog." But what happened shows that there is still good, even where you least expect it. Meanwhile, Buddy and the police dog were becoming unlikely symbols. The media reported how, faced with an unjust order, the dog had chosen to protect life rather than blindly obey. This story fascinated the public: a threatened black veteran saved not by human strength, but by the loyalty of an animal. Sergeant Thompson, frustrated and humiliated, saw his career threatened. Complaints began to pour in, and some more conscientious officers began to wonder how a simple dog had been able to expose the flaws in the system. Marcus, for his part, understood that his life had just changed. He had never wanted to be a hero or a symbol. But sometimes, courage, loyalty, and humanity manifest themselves in unexpected ways. And this veteran, a simple, everyday man, had just shown his city what it truly meant to stand up to injustice. In the days that followed, Marcus's life changed dramatically. Calls and messages of support poured in from all sides. Neighbors he barely knew brought him flowers, shopkeepers offered him free meals, and strangers invited him to local events to share their experiences. The video of the police dog refusing to attack Marcus had spread beyond the city limits. National media outlets picked up the story, some calling it a lesson in loyalty and courage, and others denouncing the initial injustice. Even social media was turning Marcus into a symbol, hashtags like #JusticeForMarcus and #DogHero circulating everywhere. Pressure quickly mounted on the police station. The mayor called an emergency meeting with the police chief and local authorities. Reporters attended the meeting, and cameras broadcast every word live. The embarrassed police chief tried to downplay the situation. This incident was just a misunderstanding. But pressure from the public and veterans organizations made his apology insufficient. Civil rights lawyers offered to help Marcus file a formal complaint against Sergeant Thompson and Officer Miller for abuse of power. Marcus hesitated at first, but soon realized that his action could protect other citizens. In the streets, groups of citizens organized peaceful marches. Banners proclaimed, "Respect for our veterans. A dog can show what some humans forget." Buddy, ever loyal, walked alongside Marcus at these rallies, while the police dog, who had done the unthinkable, remained under observation. Animal behavior experts were called in to explain to the public why the dog had refused to obey, a rare moment of discernment and protective instinct. For Marcus, this attention was new and strange. But he realized that this story was about more than himself. It represented a struggle against injustice and a celebration of loyalty and courage. This chapter of his life had just begun, and Marcus knew that what had started as a leisurely stroll would turn into a fight for justice and recognition. A few days later, Marcus received an official summons to meet with the police chief and Sergeant Thompson. He knew this meeting wouldn't be easy. He walked to the station with Buddy at his side, every step filled with tension. Inside, the conference room was empty except for the police chief, Sergeant Thompson, and 2 city attorneys. Media cameras were not allowed in, but the heavy atmosphere suggested that every word spoken would have consequences. The police chief spoke in a measured voice. "Marcus, we want to resolve this situation in a civilized manner. There was a misunderstanding, and we—" Marcus raised his hand to interrupt. "Misunderstanding," he said calmly but firmly. "You ordered a dog to attack a veteran. A veteran who served this country. And if that dog hadn't had the decency to obey its own instincts, I might not be here to speak today." Sergeant Thompson looked away, unable to bear the intensity of Marcus's gaze. Officer Miller clenched his fists but remained silent. Marcus continues. "I am not here to provoke or humiliate anyone. But what happened that day must be acknowledged. Your actions were unjust, and I refuse to ignore them." The lawyers at the police station exchanged worried glances. The police chief sighed and tried to negotiate. "Marcus, we can find an amicable solution. Perhaps a public statement from us and—" Marcus cut him off again. "No. I want justice, not a statement to calm things down. This story isn't just mine. It's everyone's story who has been threatened or discriminated against." A heavy silence fell over the room. Even Sergeant Thompson, flushed with anger and shame, found nothing to say. Buddy, faithful and vigilant, rested his head against Marcus's leg, as if to remind him he was not alone. The police chief finally lowered his gaze. "Very well. Marcus. We will investigate this matter thoroughly. The officer's actions will be reviewed, and we will take appropriate action." As Marcus left the police station, he felt a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. But he knew this was only the beginning. His courage had sparked a movement in the city, and he was ready to continue fighting for justice and recognition for all those who, like him, had been unjustly threatened. The day after the confrontation, Marcus discovered that his story had taken on a scale he never imagined. Social media was abuzz with videos, articles, and testimonials, all praising his courage and that of the police dog. Inspired, townspeople organized peaceful rallies outside the police station, holding signs. "Respect for our veterans. Loyalty and courage above all. Justice for Marcus." On television, journalists recounted the scene with emotion, and experts explained how the dog had followed its instincts rather than orders, becoming an unexpected symbol of humanity. But the most surprising support came from an unlikely group, the city's honest police officers. Several officers, aware of the gravity of the situation and ashamed of their colleagues' actions, appeared before Marcus to express their solidarity. One of them, a young officer named Javier, declared, "We cannot condone what happened. Your courage reminds us why we chose this profession, to protect and serve, not to abuse." Marcus, touched, shook Javier's hand. "Thank you. This isn't just for me. This is for all those who don't have a voice." Meanwhile, the police department, under pressure, began to seriously investigate the actions of Sergeant Thompson and Constable Miller. Disciplinary action was announced, and both officers were suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. On the streets, citizens continued to support Marcus and Buddy. Children petted the Labrador, and even the police dog, now separated from the officers in charge, was placed under observation with exemplary behavior, becoming a figure of appeasement and loyalty. For Marcus, this wave of support was moving. He understood that what had begun as a threat had evolved into a movement of unity, respect, and justice. The entire city seemed ready to recognize that no force, even armed or canine, should ever surpass humanity and dignity. That day, Marcus realized that his and Buddy's courage had inspired more than just himself. They had awakened an entire city to what it truly meant to protect, serve, and stand by one's values. A few weeks later, the internal investigation into the precinct concluded. Sergeant Thompson and Officer Miller were formally disciplined for abuse of authority and discriminatory behavior. The city, which had followed the case every step of the way, greeted this decision with overwhelming relief and admiration for Marcus. But Marcus's victory went far beyond simply punishing the officers. Local officials announced new measures to improve police training, particularly on handling sensitive situations and respecting citizens. Veterans and city residents alike saw the decision as a concrete step toward fairer justice. Marcus, humble but proud, was invited to speak at a ceremony honoring veterans and community members. He took the stage with Buddy at his side and the police dog, now released from the disciplinary unit, sitting proudly behind them. "Today," he said, addressing the crowd, "we celebrate more than a personal victory. We celebrate courage, loyalty, and dignity. And sometimes the lesson comes from where you least expect it." Applause erupted throughout the room. Citizens, veterans, and even some honest police officers rose to give Marcus a standing ovation. The video of the dog refusing to attack had transformed a moment of fear into a symbol of hope and justice. In the days that followed, Marcus received invitations to share his story on national television and at conferences on justice and civil rights. But he chose to remain simple, true to himself. His priority remained his peace, his walks with Buddy, and the safety of his community. To the city, Marcus was no longer just a veteran. He had become a living symbol of courage and loyalty, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, an act of bravery, or a simple act of loyalty, could make a difference. And for Marcus and Buddy, life went on, more peaceful but never forgotten, a veteran, 2 dogs, and a city transformed by the impossible. A few months later, the city had calmed down, but the memory of the incident remained vivid. Marcus continued his daily walks with Buddy, and now the police dog, now retired from the disciplinary unit, sometimes accompanied them. A strange bond had formed between the 2 dogs, each respecting the bond between Marcus and his faithful Labrador. One afternoon, as the sun bathed the street in golden light, Marcus stopped on the small bridge in the park where he liked to sit. Buddy sat at his feet, while the police dog lay down beside it, carefully watching every movement. Marcus gently stroked the 2 dogs and whispered, "You both saved me, in a way no one will ever forget." Passers-by stopped, some smiling, others trying to capture the moment in photos. But Marcus only had eyes for Buddy and the dog who had done the unthinkable. He understood then that true courage lies not in brute strength, but in loyalty, instinct, and the will to do what is right. The veteran knew he was no longer just a man who had survived a threat. He had become a living symbol of what could be accomplished with dignity and humanity. And in that simple gesture of caress between master and dogs, the entire town saw proof that hope and justice could emerge even from the most terrifying situations. As the sun set, tinting the sky red and gold, Marcus smiled. Buddy wagged his tail, the police dog rested his head on his paws, and Marcus knew that, no matter what the future held, he had learned a lesson no one could take away from him: loyalty and courage can change the world, sometimes through the eyes of a dog. And in this peaceful silence, surrounded by his 2 companions, Marcus finally felt that true peace had been found. Months after the incident, the town still remembered Marcus and that extraordinary day. Residents told his story to children, explaining how a veteran and 2 dogs transformed a threat into a symbol of courage and loyalty. The precinct had changed. New training measures were in place, and many officers had become aware of the importance of humanity in their work. Sergeant Thompson and Constable Miller were no longer in service, and their departure had become a permanent reminder of what happens when power is wielded without conscience. Marcus, meanwhile, continued his simple life. His walks with Buddy were now punctuated by smiles, greetings, and small gestures of appreciation from the community. The police dog, retired from his unit, had found a temporary home with Marcus and Buddy, and the 3 formed an unexpected but harmonious trio. One day, at a ceremony to honor the city's veterans, Marcus took the stage. He looked at the crowd and said, "What happened that day wasn't just my story. It was the story of all those who stand tall, with courage and loyalty, even when no one is watching. And sometimes courage can come from the most unexpected places, like the heart of a dog." Applause echoed throughout the room. Marcus felt a deep inner peace. He had served his country in military combat, but this fight, for justice and dignity, had been the most important of all. And on the streets, every time someone passed Marcus with Buddy and the police dog, they were reminded that sometimes a simple act of loyalty could change not just a life, but an entire city. The city had learned a lesson it would never forget: courage and loyalty know no bounds, and justice can emerge even in the most unexpected situations.